Have you ever met someone who always asks questions? Not just one or two, but many? They want to know why, how, what if, and what happened next. They don't mean to be annoying. They just seem endlessly curious. And maybe that someone is you. You notice everything. You can't just let things go without wondering. Why did they say that? What does that mean? Is there something more behind it? Some people might laugh and say, "You're too nosy." But deep down, you know it's not gossip. It's genuine curiosity. You just want to understand. So today, let's talk about that. The psychology of people who question everything. Why some people can't stop asking, searching, and wondering. And how that trait, though sometimes misunderstood, reveals something truly fascinating about the human mind. Let's start with something simple but powerful. Curiosity is not a flaw. It's one of the most natural human instincts. It's what pushed humans to explore oceans, create art, invent fire, and build civilizations. It's the fuel of growth, discovery, and connection. But when curiosity is directed toward everyday life, toward people, conversations, little mysteries, or hidden details, it can look like being too interested. It can look like nosiness, overthinking, or intrusion. But psychologically, it's rarely about meddling. It's about seeking safety through understanding. You see, curiosity begins as a survival mechanism. The human brain evolved to ask questions because knowing more meant staying alive. Understanding what's behind the bush or what someone's expression means could save you from danger. So that instinct, to seek patterns, to gather information, still lives inside us today. People who are highly curious have more active dopaminergic circuits in their brains. That means they get a small dopamine reward, the pleasure chemical, every time they learn something new. For them, understanding is not just satisfying, it's comforting. It brings peace to the unknown. That's why when something feels uncertain or confusing, their brain doesn't rest until it makes sense. But here's where it gets deeper. For many, curiosity is not just mental, it's emotional. They ask questions not because they want facts, but because they want connection. They want to feel close, involved, and included in the world around them. When they ask, "What happened?" or "Why did you do that?" it's not always about information, it's about empathy. It's a way of saying, "I care about your story." In psychology, this is known as social curiosity. It's driven by the need to understand human behavior, to make sense of others' emotions, reactions, and motives. These people are natural observers, analysts, and sometimes healers. They can read between the lines. They notice tone, body language, microexpressions, all the things others overlook. But that sensitivity can also make them restless. Because once they notice, they can't unsee. Their mind keeps turning questions around until something feels complete. Now, let's look at curiosity from another angle. The emotional side of uncertainty. Some people tolerate not knowing very well. They can move on, even if something feels unresolved. But others, especially those with deep emotional intelligence or anxiety-based personalities, find uncertainty uncomfortable. It's not that they can't let go. It's that their mind keeps searching for closure. Psychologists call this intolerance of ambiguity, a fancy way of saying that some brains crave clear answers more than others. It's not about control, it's about peace. When something feels unfinished, their brain treats it like an open loop, a story without an ending, and the curiosity becomes a way to close that loop. So, when they ask a lot of questions, they're not trying to be difficult. They're trying to feel safe in clarity. But here's something beautiful. This kind of curiosity often comes from empathy. Because people who are curious about others are usually those who feel deeply. They want to understand not only events but emotions. Why people do what they do. Why the world works the way it does. Why things sometimes don't make sense. Their curiosity isn't just mental. It's emotional intelligence turned outward. It's the heart's version of research. And yes, Sometimes that curiosity spills over into personal territories, like wondering about people's relationships, choices, or feelings. But again, it's rarely judgmental. It's not, I want to know to gossip. It's, I want to know to understand. There's also a link between curiosity and creativity. The most curious minds are often the most imaginative ones. Because when you question everything, you start to see beyond surface reality. You make connections others don't. You look at the world with wonder instead of assumption. Curiosity, in this sense, is an open door. It keeps life alive. It turns boredom into fascination. It transforms routine into discovery. That's why people who ask why a lot often become innovators, artists, researchers, or storytellers. They can't stop exploring because exploration is their natural state. But curiosity also has its emotional shadow. When it becomes constant, unending, it can feel exhausting, both for the curious person and those around them. The brain that questions everything never truly rests. It analyzes, it dissects, it imagines outcomes. And sometimes, that overthinking can become anxiety disguised as curiosity. Because deep down, what they're really asking is, am I safe? Do I understand? Am I missing something that could hurt me later? When curiosity meets fear, it becomes hypervigilance. When it meets joy, it becomes wonder. Same trait, different emotion beneath it. And here's where compassion matters. If you're someone who's always asking questions, always needing to know, you're not too much. You just process life through exploration. That's your language of safety and connection. But it helps to pause sometimes and ask yourself, am I asking because I care or because I'm afraid? Both are okay, but knowing which one it is helps you navigate your mind with kindness. Because the goal isn't to stop being curious. It's to be curious consciously. In a world where so many people accept things without question, the ones who ask why are often the ones who change everything. They challenge patterns, question systems, and uncover truths. They bring awareness to what others overlook. And that's something deeply valuable. Still, curiosity has to balance with boundaries. Knowing when a question brings connection and when it crosses into intrusion. It's not about silencing curiosity. It's about guiding it. Because curiosity, without empathy, can wound. But curiosity with empathy can heal. Let's look at a real-world example. Imagine a friend who keeps asking questions about your breakup, your new job, or your family issues. At first, it might feel invasive. But if you listen carefully, sometimes the tone isn't nosy, it's caring. They want to help you process. They want to understand how you feel. For them, asking is a form of showing love. And sometimes, that same habit, when misunderstood, gets labeled as gossip or intrusion. But it's not always about wanting to know your secrets. It's about wanting to understand your story. There's another interesting psychological layer. Curiosity often grows in people who were taught not to ask. If you grew up in a family or culture where questions were dismissed, where adults said, don't ask too much, or that's none of your business, your curiosity may have become even stronger. Because the forbidden always becomes fascinating. When knowledge is limited, the mind starts seeking it everywhere. That's why people who felt silenced as children often become the most inquisitive adults. Their curiosity is a rebellion, a gentle one, against silence. They learned early on that questions equal freedom. But on the flip side, sometimes people use questioning as protection, to analyze, predict, or avoid surprises. Especially those who've been betrayed, hurt, or blindsided before. They've learned, if I ask enough, maybe I won't be caught off guard again. Their curiosity is a shield, a way of staying emotionally prepared. It's not paranoia. It's self-defense in disguise. So when you see someone asking endless whys, remember, they might not be controlling. They might just be healing. Psychologists also connect curiosity with open-mindedness. the willingness to see from many perspectives. Curious people rarely live in black and white. They live in shades of gray, where everything is a question, a possibility, a maybe. That's what makes them compassionate. Because the more you understand about the world, the less you judge. Curiosity humbles us. It reminds us that every person, every situation, has layers we can't see at first glance. So, people who ask a lot of questions often have softer hearts than they show. They're not trying to criticize. They're trying to comprehend. Still, it's okay to recognize when curiosity becomes heavy. When your mind won't stop turning over a thought. When you feel restless not knowing the answer. When your questions start replacing your peace. In those moments, remind yourself, not knowing doesn't mean danger. Sometimes mystery is safe. Sometimes it's okay to let things be. Because the truth is, you don't have to understand everything to be okay. Some questions are meant to stay open, like windows. They let the air in. They remind us that life doesn't have to be fully explained to be beautiful. So if you're someone who's curious about everything, from how people think, to why the sky looks different today, to what's happening in someone's life, don't shrink from it. It's a gift. Your curiosity keeps you awake, alive, and connected. But remember, balance is what keeps it gentle. Ask with empathy, wonder without control, and give yourself permission to rest between questions. Because even the most curious mind deserves stillness. Speech ballooner, you like this too? Curious about everything. Always asking, always wondering. Sometimes even about other people's stories, until it looks like you care too much. Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments. I'd love to hear how your curiosity shows up in your life. And remember, curiosity isn't about being nosy. It's about being alive. It's how your soul keeps reaching for understanding in a world full of mystery. You don't have to stop asking questions. You just have to love yourself through the answers you find, and the ones you never do. Curiosity isn't a flaw. It's the heartbeat of understanding. So keep asking, keep wondering, but also let silence answer you sometimes too.